Let's get into it. This was the 3-year-old featured event out at Santa Anita on Saturday. It was the 3-year-old debut of Bolt Doro. He was the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He ultimately ran third. He finished second in the Eclipse Award voting for 2-year-old champion behind Good Magic. You also had McKenzie, who was 3 for 3. He had really done nothing wrong for Bob Baffert. He was put up via disqualification in the Grade 1 Los Alamitos Futurity, and how everything just seems to go full circle. We had a little bit of an incident here in this race as well. Michael Rona, tremendous stretch run. Here it is.
Great purpose at the top of the stretch, and Bolt Doro moves up alongside of McKenzie, and they're racing tightly. They were brushing in upper stretch. McKenzie fights back underneath Bolt Doro. The San Felipe living up to its billing. A 16th left to go. McKenzie on the inside, and Bolt Doro in a spine-tingling spectacle at the Great Race Place. Bolt Doro, McKenzie, they hit the line. McKenzie
via disqualification, Bolt Doro wins the San Felipe, although he finished second behind McKenzie. Bolt Doro gets the job done, pays $4.40 on top as the 6-5 second choice. McKenzie runs second as your even money favorite, $2.40 to place. And Kentaka, he runs third in his first start, going 2 turns for Jerry Hollendorf for $2.60 to show. The $1 exact comes back $3.90, 50-cent try comes back $4.70, and the 10-cent superfecta comes back $4.62. Bolt Doro is 4 of 5 lifetime. He has earned $816,000 in career earnings. He is owned by Ruiz Racing LLC, trained by Mick Ruiz, bred by Windstar Farm LLC in the state of Kentucky, the Commonwealth, I should say. Ridden to victory by Javier Castellano. You see the pedigree at the bottom of the page. He is by Medaglia d'Oro out of an AP Indy mare named Globe Trot. This is a very talented horse, is McKenzie. I think there are a lot of things, or I'm sorry, is Bolt Doro. The top two are both talented for that matter. What are we talking about here? The interesting thing here is, let's first start and talk about the figures. McKenzie and Bolt Doro both earn 101 buyers. From a time form standpoint, McKenzie actually earns the faster number because he finished ahead of Bolt Doro. He earns a 124 time form U.S. rating and a 123 time form U.S. rating for Bolt Doro. Let's talk about the 2 instances where we had some serious contact. First was at the top of the lane, and then you had the second one down as we got closer into deep stretch. Top of the lane, I blame whomever you want. Blame Javier for coming in. Blame X, Y, and Z. Whatever it is, I don't really care. The point for me anyway, when I see them make contact at the top of the lane, I don't think it cost anyone anything right there. I thought they were just, look, contact happens. Race riding happens. Horses bounce off of one another. You've seen much worse be sort of just completely disregarded. So I don't want to make a big deal out of that contact. The contact deeper in the stretch, sure, McKenzie comes out a little bit and there's some bumping, and he was the one that probably initiated that. But at the same time, I feel like we're just having a complete repeat and a rerun of what we saw in the Los Al Futurity. Now, the difference was there were 3 horses involved that day as opposed to 2, but if they bounced off each other at the top of the lane and they bounced off each other in deep stretch, and I don't think either one of them lost any momentum. Neither rider stopped riding. Mike Smith and Javier, no one stopped. They just kept going on. Why make a change? They waited almost 12 minutes to make a decision. And I don't want to sit here and harp on stewards because I know they have an unenviable job. It is one of those where it's thankless. You're supposed to make the right decision, and when you make a questionable one, all you do is get criticized. But at the same time, I hate to say it like this, but we talk about it in other major sporting events. And I wonder if you've got to start to think of it like this a little bit. In big events, let them play. Unless it's just an egregious foul where you body slam. And guess what? We've seen egregious fouls take it down, have no change anyway. Look at Byron in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And Baffert even said, I'm still paying for Byron. Well, maybe a little bit. Also, probably not a great look from Baffert, considering this entire thing kind of worked in McKenzie's favor in the Los Alamitos Futurity. So I don't really have any sympathy for any of the parties involved for any of this. But at the same time, back to the steward situation. Like, let him play. If it wasn't something that knocked a horse way off course and took him out of his stride and really just altered everything, changed the complexion of the race, then don't make a change. Don't do anything. The more you try to get involved, people don't go to watch you. It's the same thing with umpires and referees, you name it. I don't care. I don't want to go and watch and have to talk afterward about how the referee made a ridiculous call that altered the result. I think McKenzie was better than Bolt Doro on this day. That doesn't mean that I think going forward that McKenzie is necessarily a better horse. We'll dive into that momentarily. But the idea is I don't think the best horse won on this given day. And that bothers me a little bit. Unenviable position for the stewards to be put in. But at the same time, if you're saying their logic was inconclusive who caused the bumping at the top of the lane, but it was very clear who caused it deep stretch, I don't know. To me, it's one of those things. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's done. It's in the past. McKenzie is taken down. Bolt Doro wins. And the good news is it looks like both of them are in very, very good shape point-wise for the Kentucky Derby, so that's not a concern. The concern you got to think about a little bit, and Mike Watchmaker, I believe, talked about it in his column on Sunday afternoon. Did this race take anything out of these two? Because this was a pitched battle. This was very clearly the best 3-year-old prep we've seen thus far. They came home both in 31-1. Bolt Doro slightly faster than McKenzie. I don't want to say that McKenzie had the recency edge over him. I mean, technically he did because he ran in December and January, but he was coming off of a 2-month layoff as well. And I know Bolt Doro hadn't been seen since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but I don't know that recency made too much of a difference. I wonder if the dynamics where these horses are placed made a difference, and McKenzie getting the jump on Bolt Doro, maybe that was the end-all be-all. I thought they both ran really well. If you're a fan of either one of these horses, you're part of the connections. If you're Bob Baffert, if you're Pegram and Company, if you're Mick Ruiz, I think everyone has to be very, very happy coming out of this race with the result aside. I think you got what you wanted out, and I think it was very clear that these are the two best horses as far as 3-year-olds are concerned right now with points to their name. And I throw that caveat out there because we will talk about a horse coming up here later on. But I thought the top two both ran awesome. I think they are here. Everyone else right now seems to be at least one notch below, if not more. I thought Kenthaka ran sneaky well in here, considering he stumbled very, very badly out of the gate. He was wide on the first turn. He saved some ground down the backside. He made a nice move on the far turn, started warming up. And it seemed like when the top two extended, he just couldn't quite stay with them. The interesting thing is he galloped out very, very well, Kenthaka did. And again, I was concerned going into this race from a pedigree standpoint. You see Jimmy Creed on top. Maybe it's not going to work out for him ultimately 2 turns. I thought he ran really well, and well enough anyway, that I would think give him another shot, certainly. With a year like this, where it seems like these 3-year-olds just continue taking turns beating one another, which, let's call a spade, is usually not a positive thing. It can show that there's some weaknesses, and I'll admit, I'm starting to get a little bit leery about these 3-year-olds. I'm usually the last one to jump off. I'm usually the last one to jump on some sort of a bias. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. These top two at least alleviated some of those fears. I thought Kenthaka did run well. I think he's one that it'll be interesting. Ultimately, I think he's a 1-turn horse, but you have every right. If there's anyone with a 3-year-old right now, turf, dirt, synthetic, don't care. If there's anybody with a 3-year-old, you've got to be trying to find a way to get into one of those final preps because it's just been chaos all year. The Southern California contingent seems to be the tightest and seems to be the most consistent. They also might be the best. I thought the top two both ran very well. Bolt Doro gets the job done by disqualification. He earns a 101 buyer. McKenzie taken down via disqualification, a 101 buyer as well. Both of them over 123 with Timeform US ratings. They might be the two horses to beat going forward with a big race like the Santa Anita Derby on deck in a few weeks.